Good afternoon, and thank you for attending today's webinar. Our speakers are Keith Dirks, Industry Executive Director for Transportation and Logistics from Oracle, Nate Kelly, Senior Manager in Financial Systems for DCLI, and Howard Engel, Director of Solution Architects at ArganoCSS. And Keith, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Kate. And I wanted to thank everyone for the great participation today. Hopefully this session will be illuminating or at least resonate with some of the challenges that you all are facing in your businesses. Today we're going to talk about how Oracle addresses those business needs. When I think about our success criteria, it's always the success of our clients and our customers that drives Oracle and our success as well. Just by way of introduction, my name is Keith Dirks, as Kate said, Industry Executive Director for Transportation and Logistics for Oracle. I've got over 30 years in transportation, logistics, and the supply chain. I've been a CIO for one of the largest maritime terminal operators, so I come at this both from an Oracle perspective, but also as a user and implementer of Oracle. And what I'm going to do is take you through today a little bit of how we view the industry. Obviously, it's top of mind. And in fact, what I'd like to do is make a quote here. Executives at S&P companies have mentioned the phrase supply chain, transportation, and logistics over 3,000 times on investor calls through October 21st. Followed by a breakdown, disruption, or bottleneck. So where in the past, supply chain, transportation, and logistics was often seen as the plumbing of an organization, today it's a critical success factor and a big determinant of success. So what I'd like to do then is basically take you through our safe harbor, things that we mentioned today. You can read that at your own leisure. And this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to take you through what we see are some of the challenges and trends, how we, Oracle, support transportation and logistics providers, some of the solutions that we're going to mention, why Oracle for transportation and logistics, and then obviously our investment in your business. And as I said earlier, your success is our success. Just a couple of data points. When you think about higher business value, $38 billion, according to CNN Money, is time wasted on goods and services being delivered. Obviously, we're feeling that pain today. The number of customers willing to pay for same-time delivery services is 40%. So when you think about the stresses on your businesses and how you have to realign and re-engineer, both from a technical and an operational perspective, your businesses to meet the expectation of your clients. When we think about fuel wasted by engine idling, over $8,250 per truck per year. And then we think about digital enablement. The number of connected vehicles by 2020 are over 20 million, and this is only going to accelerate. Right now, we're feeling a lot of the pressure of rising energy costs, and the expectation will be that this will hasten very much the way COVID hastened digitalization. Pressures in the energy sector will do the same. Something maybe not new to you, but there's a phrase, I talked about energy, that data is the new oil. And so when you think about the data produced per average vehicle in 2025, up to 30 terabytes. So it's not just the production of that data, but what you do with that data and the information, and turning data into information, into insight, and how insight can help transform your business. And then cost benefit delivered with proactive fault detection. So when you think about things like predictive maintenance and the like, getting the data that will help you provide that insight in advance of failure has a huge impact on your business. So what are the things that we think about pressures right now? Visibility to optimization of assets across transportation. When we think about things like end-to-end visibility, but also data sharing, not just with you and your ecosystem partners in the supply chain and multiple customers, but the ability to share data with internal platforms across businesses and lines of operation. So a single transportation management platform with the ability to optimize transportation assets, people, and information in real time across multiple business pillars is going to be key. And you notice I also introduced the word people here. So when you think about human capital management, which we won't really touch on today, but obviously that's a stressor in the industry as well. Another capability is this single organization with a supply chain view. Again, this idea of data as the new oil, so data quality and consistency across multiple business pillars. And I'd just like to cite an example from my past. We worked with a client on some big data and analytics projects, and we found that it took, of the 12-month project, almost 10 months to get the data quality to the point where we could apply the algorithms to give us insight. And the old phrase, garbage in, garbage out, plays heavily in this. So the ability to actually understand the data, ensure that you trust that data, and then the insights driven by that. So we think about things like real-time reporting, better access to customer information. And I'd like to point something out. We talked about that breakdown and the phrases that were used during the S&P company investor calls. So when we think about this, we need to be able to think about the idea of access across the supply chain. So not just optimizing transportation, not just optimizing warehouse management, but optimizing within your own business and across your ecosystem of partners to build a fully optimized supply chain. And how do you do that? With a modern financial platform embedded with technologies, and I'll talk about this later, the use of artificial intelligence. When you think about some of the breakdowns in the supply chain, we think about resiliency, so automation. And then obviously there's a big focus today on a user experience to enable real-time single sources of financial data, customer and business information across multiple domains. And what I'd like to point out here is this idea of, as your business changes dynamically, the ability to acquire that data from within your organization across multiple pillars and understand the profitability and the revenue generation in near real time as you make those business decisions. And then finally, people and human resources. So there are shortages now of drivers, but that's been highlighted, but it's also warehouse management employees and others across the supply chain. So not only how do you acquire that employee, but understand their needs and be able to retain those employees. And this is an industry where often employee turnover rates can exceed 100%. We often talk about what are the competitive advantages of organizations. Obviously, digitalization is a part of that, and that's been accelerating. But it comes down often to people, that people are that differentiation that you have, no matter what line of business or what business function that they have. So building a global payroll platform with a central repository of all, not just your employee, but contractor data, as we see a move towards a blend of employee and contractors with the capability to plan, manage, and optimize those resources on a single platform to drive retention is absolutely critical. So for Oracle Solution for Transportation and Logistics, obviously for the folks on the call today, we're really focusing on the ERP and the supply chain side of things. But Oracle provides a solution across multiple platforms and business functions, from ERP and supply chain, as I mentioned, but also human capital management to advertising and the customer experience, all of which are going to be critical for your success. Diving down a little bit more into more detail, you can see the completeness of the ERP and the supply chain management functions and capabilities, everything from procure to pay to invoice to cash. But when we look at supply chain execution, logistics, transportation management, and although I don't include this slide on our presentation today, if you go to Gartner Magic Quadrants, you'll often see Oracle across 5 to 6 different capabilities that Oracle brings to our customers and clients, where we are in the top right Magic Quadrant, as they call it. The other thing that I wanted to point out is when we think about digitization and running business today, the real point of cloud is to drive faster innovation. And I'll have a slide coming up that I'll show you the cadence. When we had on-premise solutions, we'd have updates once a year, once every 2 years. Frankly, that doesn't cut it longer term. We see new entrants in the marketplace, digitally native companies. One of the trends in the industry is that the private equity firms and the venture capitalists are making massive multi-billion, $10 billion investments in a number of these digital native companies that are also building new business models. So as an incumbent in the industry, how do you respond to these challenges? How do you bring a set of capabilities? I think there's an advantage to incumbency, and that's the relationships that you have with your teams and also with your customers, and the ability for you to reach back into the execution of your business over time is a real advantage, being able to do that. And one way to do that is through these digital, what I call transformational or exponential technologies. So when we think about AI and machine learning, being able to use algorithmic driven things for AI to be able to automate a lot of capabilities and functions, whether that's in the finance function, the supply chain, human capital, or obviously in CX, being able to do that. Digital assistants and bots to take some of the capabilities and instantiate them in technology rather than an individual, allowing you to scale. Internet of Things, big in the supply chain and transportation is the ability to capture information at the edge. So what is happening real time in my network? What's happening with the interaction with my clients, the interactions with my warehouse, with my transportation function, being able to do that. Blockchain obviously is one of the emerging technologies. We see that in a number of end-to-end visibility solutions in the marketplace, where you need to trust and verify and be able to provide a set of capabilities but maintain the privacy of that information across all the business functions, being able to do that. And then finally, Fusion Analytics. And although I'm fairly new to Oracle, I will say that one of the things that most pleased me and surprised me was the ability across that whole set of functions, ERP, supply chain management, human capital, and the customer experience, and being able to take that data, a single source of truth, a platform, being able to do that as a system of record, and being able to really drive trusted information and therefore trusted decision making. As I mentioned earlier, when we thought about in the past how to do this, the acceleration now of innovation, the acceleration of customers, and the acceleration of expectations. There's a cadence now and quarterly updates. So when you think about Oracle and the work that we do with our customers to deliver value for them so that they can be successful, now by being able to put these capabilities in the cloud, one, we can touch multiple sources of your business with a single source of truth, but being able to provide a cadence of innovation that future-proofs your business. So when we think about some of the capabilities, why Oracle Cloud for transportation and logistics? Obviously, we want to optimize the network, determine the best way to fulfill your transportation requirements from single point to multimodal, but also then being able to apply and deliver insight across that. Measure performance and monitor trends. Again, you can only do this with trusted sources of data across the enterprise, being able to do that. And when we talked about some of those transformational technologies, like determining the impact of change and disruption, be able to capture data at the edge to understand truly what's happening operationally. So rather than inferring and then making decisions based upon those inferences, to actually have that data, link it to the financial systems, link it to the operational systems, be it warehouse management, transportation management, or others in the supply chain suite of capabilities that we've got. Multiple clients. Again, when we think about supply chain, by definition, it's multiple locations, it's multiple clients, multiple constituencies, be able to share that data across them. Provide customer service. Again, the assumption is that businesses operate without fault, but we all know that's not true. But if I have that information and I have that data and I'm able to provide a customer service capability, what's happening in real time? What's the mediation? What's the effect that we have? And how do we transfer and transform operations to be able to meet that? And then from a performance excellence standpoint, this ability to deliver insights. There's a phrase that I often like to use, and I mentioned it briefly earlier. How do I transform data into information, information into insight, and insight into wisdom? And wisdom is where I really transform and differentiate my business. But the ability over cloud to capture that information, apply analytics and machine learning to it, and being able to do that effectively becomes a critical differentiator as you compete in the business. And then collaboration effectively. Supply chain by nature, again, is multi-constituency. So collaborating not only within your own organization between business lines that you have, but the ability to be able to do that with your partners becomes a critical capability. And then ultimately gain agility. How do I respond? The marketplace isn't static. The demands of clients and customers isn't static, so that I can work in an agile fashion, be able to respond quickly, and be able to streamline the decisions that I make, whether that's financial or supply chain, and come up with better remediation, better solutions and outputs, and better insight becomes critical. So ultimately, Oracle is invested in your business. And again, the way I define success is the success of our clients. So there's a number of activities that Oracle can support both our business partners and our customers. Cloud days, what is the art of the possible? How do we talk about innovation, the things that we need to do to explore new capabilities and new solutions? Discovery, where we will collaborate with you and our business partners to understand your business inside and out, and personalize and deep dive in these discovery sessions to provide differentiated capability. A strategic roadmap. We publish, when I go back to the cadence of cloud versus on-prem, this ability for you to rely on a strategic roadmap that we have based upon input from not only our subject matter experts, but our customers and our clients and others, and to build best practices through the use of professional services and our business partners. And then ultimately, and I just attended one of these last week at Oracle, our old headquarters in Redwood Shores, get our thought leaders committed to helping you achieve your goals at a customer visit center where we often partner with our innovation teams and our business partners to be able to give you the best capabilities going forward. So we'll talk later about some Q&A, but I wanted to thank you very much and really appreciate, given how business is accelerating and the pressures on all of us today, I appreciate your taking the time out to be able to do this. So thank you very much.
Hey, thanks, Keith. I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Howard Engel. I'm the director with CSS for our solution architects. So I spend a lot of time working with our clients doing road mapping, really figuring out how to help them migrate from their current systems to newer systems, a lot of discovery, scoping, things of that nature. So I'm going to spend some time walking you through who CSS is, what do we do? Who are some of the clients we've worked with? Talk to you about our different assessment approaches that we take with regards to helping our customers kind of analyze how to get from their current systems to the new systems. Talk to you a little bit about the different ways that you can move to the cloud. There's multiple ways to move to the cloud, and then give you a couple of examples of some of the information that comes out of our assessments. And then ultimately, Nate then is going to kind of take you through a customer actually moving to the cloud. So who is CSS? So CSS, ArganoCSS, we've been around for 25 years. I think it's closer to 27 years now. We only do Oracle, so we do JD Edwards, we do EBS, and obviously for the last 7-8 years, we do cloud. We're multi-pillar, so there are a lot of firms out there that might specialize in just SCM or just EPM. We handle the full breadth of the cloud multi-pillar approach, so ERP, SCM, PPM, HCM, on the technical side, the PaaS side, CPQ, we can handle pretty much any business's needs across their business processes. Lots of Oracle customers, lots of Oracle references. We're well respected within Oracle themselves. Obviously, we've had multi-years as SI. We're platinum certified, and then again, we have within the Oracle practice within ArganoCSS, we have 350 consultants and are continually growing. And I believe by the end of the year, we're expecting to be closer to 700 consultants. So we are growing rapidly in our Oracle practice as more and more clients begin to make that move from JD Edwards or EBS or even other third-party systems and move to the cloud. So, I just kind of talked about this. We came up as JD Edwards and EBS firm, but obviously a lot of what we do now is cloud. So we spend a lot of time working with our existing customers and new customers on how to go about moving from on-prem solutions, whether could even be Hyperion, how to move to the cloud. And that's kind of the purpose of the day. What I'm going to kind of focus on is how do we help our customers, our clients, do that analysis to get from their current systems, whether it's an Oracle system or a non-Oracle system such as a Microsoft or an Infor or Epicor, and how do they go about beginning that cloud transformation. Some of the customers that we've worked with, I think you recognize a lot of them, R&L carriers, transportation, obviously, Major League Baseball. I'm sure if you're a sports fan, you know exactly who that is, NCAA, Corsair over in kind of the high-tech gaming industry, LK and plumbing. So we cover lots of different industries within manufacturing, but we also cover services as well. We're in the food and beverage with Ledestri. So we can pretty much cover any industry for the most part, and a customer within, and then the aspects of a business within an industry. Since we're specifically kind of focusing on transportation today, when we get to DCLI, which is a transportation company, just wanted to kind of touch on some of the customers that we have that are specifically in the transportation industry. So you'll recognize a lot of these. FedEx, we obviously all know who FedEx is. Avis, we know who Avis is. Carnival Cruise Lines. So as you can tell, we've got a lot of customers in the transportation industry, a lot of customers across lots of different industries. So, when you start to look at how do I get from my current applications, my on-prem applications, and I'll use, we'll use JDE Edwards or EBS as an example. How do I get from EBS or JDE Edwards to the cloud? There are lots of ways of doing that. If you think back when you implemented EBS or JDE Edwards, you probably implemented a full footprint because that's just how the software packages are designed. With the cloud, there's lots of ways to do it. You can do bits and pieces of it and have it integrate back to your existing your solution. So you really have to take a look at what am I trying to solve? Am I trying to solve an application situation? For instance, do I have a accounts payable situation or a purchasing situation? Or do I want to start moving based on like a function, so purchasing or accounts payable? Or do I have a process situation that I need to address, such as procure to pay, where I'm looking at the procurement side as well as the payable side? Or do I want to use a process approach to migrate to the cloud? So I want to start with procure to pay, and then I want to do order to cash, and then I want to do plan to build. Or do I want to take more of a transformational approach where I do a quote unquote a big bang move and move everything all at once? Or I take a transformational approach, but I use a process way of going about it, meaning I'm going to move all of my processes. I'm just not necessarily going to move them all at the exact same time and do it more in a phased approach. So what you have in front of you is unlimited ways of getting from where you are to where you need to go. And there's no one way to do it, and there's no one right way to do it. It really comes down to what are your goals, what are the obstacles you're trying to overcome, what are the things that you need to achieve as a business. And so we help our clients figure out which way is the best way to go about doing that. So some of the challenges that you'll have to think about when you're moving to the cloud is, I'm moving legacy processes, I'm moving legacy data. I've got customizations in my current solution. Do I need to bring those customizations along? Those are all things that you need to think about when you're moving to cloud. And we help our customers figure out how we're going to handle moving your legacy data. How are we going to handle moving, dealing with custom objects? First, we're going to figure out whether or not you need those custom objects going forward. How are we going to handle moving business processes? Because you'll recognize quickly that business processes are embedded within the cloud application. And the expectation is you're going to operate the way cloud is designed. Doesn't mean you can't step outside of that process if necessary, but the expectation is you're going to make use of the business processes that are based on the typical best business processes that businesses in general use, but the expectation is going to stay in that so that we can implement quicker, you can use the software faster, and get all those benefits that you have from not having to customize the system. So we have a tool within ArganoCSS that allows us to automate a lot of this. We have a tool that allows us to do a rapid implementation start. So we have a tool that allows us to essentially ask questions. Based on the answers to those questions, we can get a cloud instance up and configured within 48 hours. And we can be in doing some initial POC testing really quick. That tool is currently allows us to upgrade or migrate EBS to cloud, meaning we can migrate EBS configurations to the cloud. We can migrate master data and transactional data from an existing EBS instance into the cloud. We have the ability that during that migration process, if there's something we need to change, so let's say you want to change your chart of accounts in this process, we can actually make those changes using this tool. So we start out with your legacy chart of accounts, and we're going to go to a new chart of accounts. We can use this tool to take the legacy chart of accounts and turn it into the new chart of accounts. It will also maintain the mapping, so when we move the data, all of the data that references chart of account information will get updated to the new chart of account information. This allows us to not have to start completely from scratch and be able to use what's already been done in EBS and move it forward. And hopefully sometime in the next 12 months, we will be able to have that for JDE Edwards as well. So that allows us to implement quicker, allows us to handle migrations quicker. We can use this tool for a lot of other things, such as rolling out. So if you are going to be rolling out to multiple business units, we can use this tool to essentially copy and create business units, and it'll move all the configurations for each business unit that you want to roll out. So the point is we have a tool that allows us to automate a lot of what would currently be done manually, which then allows us to actually implement quicker, and in most situations at a lower cost to you from an implementation standpoint. So going back to helping customers get from on-prem or their current solutions to the cloud, we have two approaches. They're both called a blueprint, but one is a detailed blueprint. One is what we'll call more of a rapid blueprint. The rapid blueprint is what we do when we have a client who's just trying to figure out what is cloud, what should I be thinking about, what is a possible opportunity for us. And so in that situation, what we're looking at is we're going to provide a high-level roadmap, which is we're going to come in, we're going to sit down, we're going to say, okay, here's what you're doing in your current system. Here are your business processes. Here's places where we see that there's some pain points, where there's it's either pain points in a business process, it's pain points within the solution itself. And we're going to kind of map those over to cloud functionality and show where the opportunity is if you were to go to cloud to address that pain point. We're going to look at business case. So for instance, if you're interested in reducing your operating costs from an IT standpoint, we're going to look at that and say, well, hey, you're going to be able to reduce, servers and data centers and the costs that go along with that by moving to the cloud. So we'll do some high-level business case analysis for you. And then ultimately what we're going to come back with is we'll come back with a high-level recommendation. We'll say, hey, you know what? We do think you should look at moving to cloud. And we think maybe you probably want to start with procure to pay. And maybe we're suggesting that because you want to do sourcing and you want to be able to do RFQs and RFPs and you want to have a supplier portal that you don't currently have now. And that's a major pain point. But at the same time, we don't think you're ready to really go and tackle it all at one time. So let's start here, and then let's move to O2C, let's move to plan to build and so forth. And we'll give you a high-level recommendation on what you should be looking at and how to potentially look at implementing it and what the scope would be to do that. That kind of gives the customer an idea of, okay, this is what I need to be thinking about. Then we have our detailed blueprint, and that's where we do a full-blown analysis of the business. We will meet with executives. We want to make sure that we understand what the executives' goals are so we can make sure that the cloud transformation or migration is in line with their goals. We're going to take a look at business processes. We're going to understand how your business processes work. We're going to map those business processes back to the processes that are embedded within cloud so we can figure out where the gaps might be so that you know what you're walking into. We're going to do a full analysis of all of your customizations in the systems. So we have tools that allow us to analyze customizations that are in JDE Edwards, for example. We have tools that allow us to analyze customizations that are in EBS. So then we can kind of figure out what customizations do we believe need to move forward. And if they need to move forward, how are we going to handle them? Or hopefully the situation is, hey, you don't need that customization in the cloud because that's already handled. So we know we don't have to move forward. We're going to take a look at your infrastructure. Because obviously if you move into the cloud, you don't have to worry about infrastructure anymore. But we're going to take a look at infrastructure just to make sure, because there might be some third-party applications that are going to continue to stay on-prem. We're going to make sure we understand your infrastructure and how we're going to communicate back and forth with the cloud. We're going to do a detailed gathering of requirements. We're going to do a detailed analysis of that. You can kind of think of the detailed blueprint, depending on how deep we go and the breadth we go within the company, of almost being that defined phase within an implementation. So we're going to be able to have all your requirements, your business processes. We're going to do map gap analysis. So we're looking to make sure that where we've got solid fits and where we've got some fits that we might need to think about a little bit when we actually start the implementation. Then we're going to give you a detailed roadmap of how to move from your on-prem to the cloud. You know, multi-phase, and what are we going to do in each of those phases? We're going to talk about integrations that will be involved, how we're going to handle those integrations, temporary integrations, permanent integrations. We're going to give you a project plan. We can even feed an SOW out of this and give you a detailed business case where we're talking about looking at inventory turns, DSO, things of that nature, really digging into all the, reducing the inventory levels, things of that nature, increasing customer satisfaction, supplier performance, really digging into what are all the KPIs that we need to address to justify moving forward with this project, and then dollarize that for you. So those are the two approaches that we take when we're working with our customers on moving to the cloud. This is some examples of information that we pull and present back when we're delivering our findings. So as I mentioned, we'll be looking at a functional gap analysis. So we'll do the map gap and we'll document number of requirements, where we think that we might have a gap that we need to take a look at. We'll do the configuration analysis, as I mentioned. And again, we'll look at the data. We'll analyze the state of your data to determine how difficult data migration will be, or for instance, if you've got legacy data that we're not migrating, but we still want to be able to access it. Do we need to bring in a data warehouse? Do we need to have an analytics solution to be able to bring all that data together? So we're going to take that kind of analysis. What we're looking for really is to kind of figure out where you are in your enterprise system as far as being modern, up to date, or don't take this the wrong way, but being obsolete or not quite up to speed with the latest and greatest from technology, from business processes, things of that nature. So we're looking at, is your current ERP system really complex because it's highly customized? If it's highly customized, that leans more towards obsolete because it's hard to maintain that. Those systems, because it's hard to maintain that, they don't get upgraded as much because it's a lot of work. So those systems can get obsoleted because of the complexity. You could and that feeds into system age. You could be running a very old version of JDE Edwards or EBS. You could be running 11.5.10 EBS versus 12.2.9. And data cleanliness, master data, things of that nature. Based on the state of all those, it gives us a gauge of where you are from a system standpoint and where you are from a business process standpoint. And obviously, the farther you lean towards obsolete, the more reasons you have to look at going to a new, more modern solution. Again, we'll present opportunities for improvement. So in this example, we're looking at finance. You'll notice going across the top, growth, profitability, efficiency. Those were goals or objectives that a business in this situation wanted to impact. So we will look at the areas of improvement that we think can be gained by moving to the cloud, and we will map them back to what areas is this going to impact. So you notice in that first column, that's going to impact all the areas. Whereas in the third row, we're only going to impact 3 of the 5 areas. So we'll provide that information. Again, all of this to help justify and to help provide information to encourage moving to the cloud. as I mentioned, we'll dollarize all of this, right? So in this situation, there's a strategy to grow revenues through market expansion. And so how are we going to address that? Well, we're going to address that with product commercialization and service, which is going to tie back to the fact that we most likely then are talking PLM and we're talking Service Cloud. And that'll feed into how that roadmap is laid out, because we want to make sure the roadmap lines up with business value. So you're going to get the value of moving to the cloud as quick as possible based on the needs. Again, another ways of calculating the value is, year over year, 5-year benefit, things of that nature. So for instance, are you going to be able to reduce your inventory costs and reduce the level of inventories you're maintaining? You're going to increase your inventory turns. And what does that have to do? How does that equal dollars? Are you going to be able to maybe reduce labor force due to attrition, and because you're going to be able to automate more using IoT, things of that nature? Are you going to be able to control rogue spending? So you're going to be able to do more sourcing, have more contracts out there for purchasing that your employees are referencing versus going out and spending one-offs, and reduce spend that way. So we're going to look at things like that to also, again, provide value for why you want to consider this transformation. So with that, Nate is gonna step in and really walk you through the process, the roadmap that DCLI took to move from their on-premise systems to a cloud solution. So Nate, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nate Kelly. I'm the Senior Manager of Financial Systems at Direct Chassis Link. I'm here to just give you a little bit of insight as to our experience going from our current ERP to Oracle Cloud. So from a DCLI perspective, our main area of business is being able to, and leasing chassis, right? So on the screen, we are the largest marine and domestic container chassis provider in the United States. So I consider a chassis, it's really just that, steel frame sort of under that box, right? I think, we're all in the transportation industry, and we all, understand, sort of that, what a chassis would be, right? So we've got all types of chassis that we lease our customers. We do daily leasing as well as net leases. So, customers can come to us and we provide them 10, 15, 100, 200 chassis specifically. And we also manage the maintenance on those chassis if they would like us to. We've seen exponential growth within the past 10 years just across our fleet through organic growth as well as acquisition. So we're also the only intermodal equipment provider in the market with deep roots, right? Operating, 20 plus years. So it's we're the major player in chassis leasing in the United States. Sorry, Kate. I think I'm flipping them too. Can everybody see slide 35?
Should be business goals.
Oh, business goals. Let's see. Yes, that is correct. Sorry about that. My screen is cut off just a bit. So some of our major motivation for moving to Oracle Cloud was some of the, what's happening within our environment, right? Number one, we are implementing Oracle, Oracle leasing, so we are implementing Oracle leasing to comply with, the new lease accounting standards for 2022. So that's sort of our main goal is to get that implemented as soon as possible, so we can be in compliance with the new leasing accounting standards for for the end of the year for 2022. Some other major factors in us moving to Oracle Cloud was really overall system stability, right? And from a receivables perspective, specifically, we're sort of changing our model of billing. We're going from more of a summary-based billing to more of a move-based billing, right? So every time a trucker brings a chassis in and out of the gate, we bill for that move. And currently, when we bill a customer, they're not able to see that move level information about that move. It's more of a summary level. Here's everything that you've been billed for. And so we're moving to a move-based billing methodology, right? Which inevitably is going to tenfold our volume into our ERP system, right? So with the transition to move-based billing, that's also going to increase and improve our cash application options, right, or our cash application matching. So that's another big element for us, because today, it's sometimes hard for us to understand or know what exact transaction the customer is paying for. So with move-based billing, we can match that transaction up to the cash, easy as that, right? We're going to also improve our customer payment options. We're also going to Oracle Bill Management, right? So the customer will be able to log into Oracle Bill Management. They can manage their invoices. They can manage their aging. They can see an aging, right? All from within a seated organic Oracle portal, right? Nothing that I have to manage, nothing that I have to build. The customer logs into Oracle and they manage their payment as well as any invoices through bill management. So that's a great option as well. Of course, going to Oracle Cloud, you assume a lot of back office efficiencies as well, specifically for us, disputes and crediting collections, right? So a lot of times in our business, we work with truckers who have contracts with other ocean carriers, right? And sometimes we bill the trucker opposed to the ocean carrier or vice versa, right? So what that leads to is a lot of disputes. Our disputes are probably, we probably have 6,000 plus disputes a month, right? That we're going to be able to successfully, manage within the solution, improve that back office process, and then a dispute ultimately leads to, a credit or a rebill, right? And then we will also manage that credit rebill more efficiently from a back office perspective. Of course, improved master data hierarchy, that's, that's a given, right? The whole party model that Oracle represents and the account and the site structure, I think is crucial to being able to move forward efficiently. Contacts is a big thing as well, and then we are going to leverage Oracle standard functionality to drive some of our GL accounting as well. So in Oracle, we're using subledger accounting, right? So we are actually mapping our GL string from a descriptive flex fields that we're mapping into Oracle. So we're not passing Oracle the exact string, we're having Oracle map that for us, and that's a perk that we're able to leverage that in Oracle. So really, from a receivables perspective, high level, those are really all of the efficiencies that we're going after, things that we are kind of transitioning as well. AP, of course, Keith talked a little bit about some of the AP, efficiencies around OCR or the invoice data recognition. We're also implementing that aspect as well, right? So we're going to be able to have an inbox for all of our invoices, AP invoices to come into. That will come with improved workflow, right? The ability for Oracle to manage that, the delegation of authority, and the delegation of authority in the workflow in general, how it can go to different people. There's multiple types of workflow and DOA structures that you can have in Oracle, so that provides you that flexibility, or provides us that flexibility. Let's see, and then finally, from an AP perspective, just overall more automation within our AP. Currently, our AP process is extremely manual, and our AP team is overloaded, right? So we're trying to get this up and running for them as soon as possible. Another element we're using, as you can see, is supplier portal. So we really hope to bring our suppliers into our, into the future, right? Bring them into this Oracle Cloud structure as well, where they can actually self-register, right? Opposed to us having to manage the registration of every single supplier. They can go into Oracle, they can self-register themselves. We can create custom registration processes for them to answer all of our questions, for them to provide that insurance, for them to do all of these things that we're asking of our suppliers beforehand. Again, sort of reducing the risk from our perspective in fat fingering something, or a bank account, or fraudulent payments. All of that, right, will hopefully be mitigated and stand to be mitigated with the supplier portal. Again, from an audit perspective related to the supplier portal, you can also track any changes, right? You can also even give your suppliers the option to make their own changes, right? Say if a supplier has a new bank account, or a supplier wants to update their address or what have you, the supplier portal allows that option for them to go in there and do that, update that information themselves if you allow it, right? It's all based on roles and responsibilities as to what you're comfortable with your suppliers doing. From a GL perspective, everything feeds into GL, right? ARAP, everything feeds into GL. And one major enhancement we did with this project was we enhanced our GL string, right? So we're going from a 2-string segment to an 8-string segment, which again inevitably provides you better reporting, better visibility around all of your receivables, your expenses, and overall just include or improve our month-end processes, right? Try to provide that better reporting, try to provide that better visibility cross-functionally, right? Talked a little bit about audit and security already, but again, creating, more targeted roles from a user perspective. Right now, we're sort of, we're not a wide open shop, but our roles and responsibilities could definitely be enhanced, and Oracle provides you that ability there as well. We are trying best we can to leverage the seeded Oracle roles, simply because, with Oracle Cloud, you have monthly or quarterly updates, and sometimes those updates can impact the roles that you have custom developed, right? So you have to be very cognizant of that. So it's really a motivator to use those out-of-the-box roles. But inevitably, you will have to have a custom role. You will have to have something in that respect. So we are, blazing down that trail of getting everyone the exact access that they need. Again, high levels, the modules that we're implementing, just financials, ARAP, GL. We are implementing Fusion Procurement, Advanced Collections, Automated Invoice Processing, Supplier Portal, Fusion Inventory, Procurement and Purchasing. Yes. All right, Kate, do you see the journey to cloud?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So our journey to cloud, DCLI, has been relatively rocky, to be completely honest, given our current environment, in dealing with the pandemic and dealing with people being out of office and dealing with everyone being remote, right? So our journey started in May of 2019. We signed an agreement with Oracle that said, hey, we're going to go live, or we're going to be moving to Oracle Cloud, right? The project officially kicked off around the September 2019 timeframe, and we went through a couple senior leadership shifts, right? So we had one CIO that brought it in. We had him leave, or she left, and then we had another CIO that came in. So I inevitably had to sell the project to the new CIO, right? And he was an SAP guy, right? So I had to sell the project to him. Even with his knowledge of SAP, we still felt comfortable moving to Oracle Cloud was in the company's best interest. Right about the time that I sold it to him, we signed the statement of work with CSS, probably for the second time because we had already been implementing, right? So we signed the statement of work with CSS, and then the pandemic hit. So that brings us to March of 2020, right? So everybody was sort of in this frenzy as to what's going to happen and what the pandemic is going to bring to the logistics industry. And now we look at it, right, and unbeknownst to us, it's brought, incredible times, right? So that project was actually halted from March of 2020 until April of 2021. So throughout that year, we did not work on the project at all. We put everything on ice. And then we brought April 2021 rolled around, and the company felt comfortable enough to kick this project off again. The other thing that's interesting from our perspective is we were really gung-ho about ARAP and GL, some of the other elements of the financials application as well. But when we kicked it off in April of 2021, we recently had a new procurement manager, and some other people were hired as well. And they said, hey, I think it really makes sense for us to implement procurement and inventory. So we went back to Oracle, worked with them to add procurement and inventory to our scope, and worked with Oracle to add it to our scope from a licensing perspective, and then worked with ArganoCSS to add it to our scope from an implementation standpoint as well. And to be honest with you, I can't imagine us not doing that, given how closely tied, procurement and inventory, how closely all the modules are tied together is ultimately going to provide us, more flexibility, more integration flexibility, and be able to, support us moving forward. We are currently slated to go live in Q3 of 2022. Okay. Oh, Here we go. Okay, can you guys see the IT slide? So from an IT perspective, one of the big drivers in us going to the Oracle Cloud is really, number one, right, reduce dependency on hosted platforms, right? We, DCLI, we're not a massive company, probably 400 employees at the most, right? So we do not have the staffing or the capability to hire a bunch of people to run our applications for us, right? So it's in our best interest to move to this SaaS model. So we wanted to do that. We wanted to provide ourselves more flexibility, and we wanted to, give ourselves the opportunity to go from a hosted, to a cloud platform. Inevitably, that's going to improve our system integrations, like cross-functional, right? There's multiple areas where, Oracle Cloud is going to streamline our business integrations and ultimately set us up for superior growth in the future. Overall, the improving performance and scalability through Oracle, right? I mean, that's been literally a seamless process. I have had to do nothing, from a scalability standpoint. We did go through a pod sizing exercise with Oracle, based on our users, based on our transactions, based on our modules, how we're leveraging the system, all of that, right, goes into a pod sizing exercise. And, ultimately they size your pod correctly, for your transactions, for your business, right? And if that ever becomes a problem, it's an extremely easy exercise to redo, right? Say, hey, this is running slow, or we're not achieving what we would like from a pod sizing perspective, or we got blocked, or something, right? From a cloud perspective, it's very easy to sort of redo that exercise. Again, so those are sort of some of the IT improvements that we are making that we really hope benefit the business. From a business perspective, everything that I've mentioned before or previously mentioned, right? So, better customer visibility through move-level invoicing, hopefully, leads to better cash flow, easier customer payments, helps us better apply that cash, right? Improve supplier onboarding from an AP perspective. I do not want my AP team to be dealing with supplier onboarding, right? In the new world, if a supplier wants to work with us, they can go register on the portal, right? And I think this is going to be a concept that's really going to take, as we move forward, as we start really pushing our portal out and making that more of a mainstream item, so that they can then focus on making sure things are paid on time, making sure that we don't have fraudulent payments, making sure that we've got our suppliers in a standard accounts and sites and hierarchies, right? Standard hierarchy, making sure all that's correct. Again, improving collections, collections, disputes, again, back office processes, right? It's really hard to sometimes monetize some of this from a cost perspective. This is what you're going to save. That is one thing I struggled with when representing this to my management. But I think as I worked with some of our senior leaders and having them understand, the visibility that the internal team is going to have across the board, cross-functionally, is significantly increased, right? Everything from AP, AR, GL, advanced collections, procurement and inventory, and the visibility that they'll have within Oracle Fusion is extremely higher than what they previously had. And then overall, our goal as a company is just to provide the customer more flexibility and more of a reason to want to work with us, right? It's a very easy process to pay. It's a very easy process to receive my bill. My bill is understandable. We have built custom invoice templates within Oracle to support them. Everything that they need is going to be in the new bill format. So those are some of the benefits that we're receiving as a company, moving forward to Oracle Cloud, right? And so a couple of things that I want to just state. Right, I'll be glad to field any questions at any time. But one thing, sort of advice to the field. One thing that I really stress as you get into these projects is having everyone understand that personal commitment, right? That's one thing that we are currently struggling with as we are moving forward, blazing this trail of getting live with Oracle Cloud. Is some of my business team, some of my functional team did not understand how much time it truly took to fill those gaps in their processes, understand Oracle Cloud, have their team log in, have their team understand their roles and responsibilities. I cannot stress enough, like having a team that's focused on that can support that, right? And that's one area, if I could go back and sort of redo, that's one area that I would absolutely pay more attention to, is the resourcing aspect. And the other thing, before you really kick off with Oracle Fusion, right, the whole concept of Oracle Fusion is you are wanting to go live and you are wanting to implement this as out of the box as possible, right? You really have to have that cross-functional commitment to standardization. There's a lot of things that we're having to re-standardize. There's a lot of things that we're having to reshuffle, right, because of Oracle Fusion, right? But it's not because it's really the wrong process. It's because, what Oracle Fusion does, and this is how Oracle Fusion works, and this is how Oracle Fusion supports it, right? We can make our business process meet that, but I don't want to customize it, right? The last thing I want to do is customize that. That way, it creates more items for me to track on a quarterly basis when these updates are pushed out, when we get all the updates that Oracle pushes out, right? Which is additional functionality to me. I want these updates, but I don't want to have to manage my customization. So as you work through it, just that's one thing, sort of advice to the field. Again, just I would be cognizant of try to implement as out of the box vanilla as possible, right? So with that, Kate, I think that's all that I have.
Thanks, Nate. That was fantastic. A lot of good educational information, I think, for the group. Just to kind of wrap up, as part of this, ArganoCSS, we're willing to offer a complimentary cloud blueprint. So I talked about that earlier in our discussion. So we'll execute this in a remote manner. We'll do feature analysis. We'll determine key pain points. We'll develop an opportunity matrix, and then we'll present that back out. And then at that point, we can either look at taking a deeper dive into an assessment or a business value mapping. We can even work with Oracle to maybe develop some demos if necessary. If you're interested in that, we're going to be sending out this deck because, again, we'd like to apologize. We obviously had some technical difficulties, so we're going to be sending this deck out. If you're interested in taking advantage of that, feel free to respond to that email. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kate. I think she's got a few questions for us to address.
I do. Thanks, Howard. Do you see customers often taking a multi-phase approach to migrating to the cloud, or do you see customers taking a big bang approach?
From my perspective, I would say a decent amount of our clients are taking more a multi-phase approach, but there are a few that take the, especially those that are coming from non-Oracle platforms, that take more of a big bang approach. With JDE, EBS, those type of platforms, being able to take a multi-phase approach is a little easier with the integration capability because we're talking Oracle to Oracle. But really, there is no one way to do it. We have clients that are on EBS or JDE Edwards who have done a big bang. We've had clients that aren't on an Oracle platform that have taken a multi-phase. Really depends on what you're trying to address. Depends on how much risk you want to take on. Depends on what are your business goals, what are your pain points that you're trying to address as to whether or not, what's the right way to do it. So I know that wasn't like a direct answer, but there is no one answer to that question, to be honest with you.
Okay, great. I think I've got one for Nate here. Is there anything that you would have done differently?
Yeah, I mean, I stated a little bit, like right at the end, it's purely resourcing, honestly, from a DCLI perspective, having the ability to truly represent the resources that are needed, right? I would have a resource for every functional area. So I would have a resource for AR, AP, and reporting, as well as a project manager. It's sort of, I think that's what would have worked better for DCLI. To have that representation. But, from a system, from a conversion perspective, honestly, we have not run into anything in Oracle that we could not overcome. Which in one of these conversions, right? I mean, that's something to say. I mean, we've taken no recessions there.
Excellent. I've got another one for you. Are there additional benefit areas that you're looking to tackle post go live?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we've got we've got a lot of systems that we're not currently integrating with. Our goal, number one goal, is to get our ERP live, right? Once our ERP goes live, there's a plethora of other areas that we can truly focus on, right? Truly focusing on some of our banking integrations. The supplier portal is a great thing, is actually one of those areas, right? So from our perspective, we are implementing supplier portal as a functionality out of the box, right out of Oracle. But one thing that we're not doing is we're not going to take supplier portal on day one, and we're not going to say, okay, supplier portal is live, everybody go for it, right? That's one of the areas that we're really taking, we're really taking it slow. We want to develop that process. We want to make sure that we've got connectivity to, our, third-party applications that can validate supplier bank account, mitigating, that risk of fraudulent payments. So absolutely, Salesforce is another thing that, sort of popping in my mind as well that I'd really like to get integrations with, when the time is right.
Okay, great. Howard, this one's for you. Is Argano able to provide a similar migration roadmap if they're coming over from SAP and not from JDE Edwards or EBS or something similar in Oracle?
Yeah, we can absolutely do an assessment coming from SAP. There are a few limitations there. Like, for instance, we don't have tools that go into SAP per se, but we can work with a particular customer with them to do that analysis of customizations. But as far as business requirements, process mapping, those type of workshops where we're taking all that information and mapping it to standard functionality, absolutely capable of doing that.
Okay, great. Got another one here. How are you addressing transaction history in ERP? I haven't seen many best practices or solutions regarding transactional history from Oracle ERP to the cloud.
So I'll answer, then maybe Nate will have a comment on how they particularly handle it. So it's very difficult to move historical transactions. So open transactions is one thing. So open AP, open AR, that open POs, that's one thing. But to move like historical purchase orders or historical invoicing or sales orders, that's a much difficult process. So we don't typically migrate that transactional data. The solution would be to have a data warehouse where you move that data into a data warehouse, and then you can use BI solutions to take that data along with the data you have in cloud and bring it together and present it as a single reporting solution. So you can look at using cloud analytics to do that, or if you had another BI tool available, you could look at doing it that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, from a DCLI perspective, we are having to actually bridge some of that. We're having to bridge some of that in custom solutions on our side from a UI perspective. But given that DCLIs we're transitioning from more of a summary level billing to a move-based billing, on day one, we want our customers to have that visibility broken out, have the visibility that they currently have, right? And the way that we're building our UIs, the way that we're building our new processes is all at the move level, where it was previously at the summary level. So we are having some challenges there, but again, that's really all requirements from our business that we're having that we are supporting, right? So again, it's more of a custom UI solution from a DCLI.com or a DCLI perspective. But then from an Oracle standpoint, Howard, as you mentioned, we are transitioning open AR balances. We're transitioning open AP. We're transitioning, some GL activity as well.
Okay, great. Well, that will conclude our Q&A for today. If you weren't able to respond to your question, we'll follow up with you via email. And at the conclusion of this webcast today, you'll see an opportunity that will pop up and you can request the complimentary blueprint offering. Again, thank you for your time today and hope you'll join us again next time.